Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick preview and prediction for Gervonta Davis versus Rolando Romero. This fight goes down on the 28th of May, which is this coming weekend, and of course it is for the WBA regular lightweight title, which is held by Tank Davis. Now, going into this fight, Gervonta Davis is a massive bookie's favourite, and rightly so. Skill for skill, Gervonta Davis, in my opinion, is levels above Rolando Romero. He's also quicker, he's more explosive, he hits harder. Defensively, he's more responsible. And yeah, going into this fight, the majority of the boxing public are picking Tank Davis to win. Really the only thing that Rolando Romero can bank on in this fight is his size. He is the bigger man. But there is one interesting aspect about this fight. In the last day or so, Gervonta Davis has confirmed that he is leaving Mayweather Promotions after this fight. Apparently, this is the last fight on his contract, and he wants to explore new options. His words were basically, it's time to take the training wheels off. And if that is the case, then fair play to Tank Davis for taking his career seriously. But secondly, if that is true, knowing that Tank Davis could leave Mayweather Promotions, maybe Mayweather Promotions stack the deck against him in Rolando Romero's favour. Maybe the referee allows Romero to get away with more than he would have done. Things along those lines. So there is that to look out for. But anyway, enough of that. Let's briefly break down the tale of the tape. We shall start with Gervonta Davis, the favourite. He goes into this fight with a record of 26-0, 24 of his 26 wins coming by way of knockout. Rolando Romero has a record of 14-0, 12 of his 14 wins coming by way of knockout. Gervonta Tank Davis is listed as 5'5" with a 67.5-inch reach, whereas Rolando Romero is listed 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. So Rolando Romero has half an inch in reach, and also a 2.5-inch height advantage, and on top of that, he is just the bigger lightweight in general. He will be the bigger man on fight night, and ultimately to stand any chance of winning this fight, he needs to utilise those physical advantages. Gervonta Tank Davis is a southpaw, whereas Rolando Romero is an orthodox fighter. Tank Davis is 27 years old, whereas Rolando Romero is 26 years old. Now the tale of the tape is out of the way, let's briefly break down what I believe each guy should do to stand the best chance of winning this fight. I guess we'll start with the underdog, Rolando Romero. And like I was saying earlier, to me, skill for skill, Rolando Romero doesn't really do anything better than Tank Davis. So for him to win this fight will be a big ask, in my opinion. But for me, Rolando Romero really needs to negate the boxing match in this fight. He needs to make it a street fight, essentially. One thing about Rolando Romero, where I will give him some credit, he seems to be somewhat heavy-handed. He's a bigger man than Tank Davis, and he appears to be quite naturally strong. I've noticed that in the clinch, for example, in his fight with Anthony Yiggett, who has fought at 140, he basically manhandled Anthony Yiggett in the clinch, and for me, that's where Rolando Romero needs to take this fight. He needs to be stuck to Gervonta Davis like white on rice. He needs to be stuck to him like glue. The problem for Rolando Romero in his previous fights, he's not really closed the distance in a wise manner. You know, he comes forwards, he gets caught a lot. He comes in straight lines, his head is over his front foot, so he's open for punches like uppercuts, which Tank Davis throws very well. In this fight, defensively, he needs to tighten up, be more compact, come in behind that high guard. There's no good me saying, Rolando Romero needs to come in at the angle, needs to bob and weave his way in. He's never going to be that sort of fighter. So for me, keep it basic, come in nice and compact, behind a nice tight high guard, and try to really quickly close the distance on Tank Davis and then smother Tank Davis. From there, try to really maul him in the clinch, maybe try to tie Tank up with one arm and work with your free hand, you know, and ultimately push Tank Davis back. One thing about Tank Davis, I don't think he generates the same sort of power when he's punching off the back foot. We saw that against Isaac Cruz. So, you know, Rolando Romero in this fight needs to use that physicality to force Tank Davis backwards, and he needs to force Tank Davis backwards throughout this fight, because if he lets Tank set his feet or push him back, then he's going to be on the end of some devastating punches. And yeah, for me, ultimately, Rolando Romero just needs to make this a street fight. Try to work the body when you can, maul Tank Davis in the clinch, maybe resort to some dark arts, you know, throw a shoulder in, maybe lead with the head, things like that. I wouldn't usually say that, but Rolando is so outskilled in this fight, he's going to need to make it a street fight, as far as I'm concerned. There's no good me saying that Rolando needs to come in, you know, behind a jab, using lateral movement, cutting off a ring, you know, in a technical manner. There's no point me saying that, because Rolando just doesn't have the skill set to make that happen. So the best he can really do in this fight is to utilize that physicality, try to rush Tank Davis and draw him into a street fight, a bit of a shootout. And quite frankly, even in that occasion, I would still favour Tank Davis to catch him and knock him out. So, you know, Rolando Romero is up against it in this fight, but I think we all know what he has to do here. I don't think anybody in their right mind would say, oh, Rolando needs to utilise his height and reach and box and move, keep it on the outside. That's not going to happen, you know? So we know what Rolando has to do here. As for Tank Davis, how does he win this fight? Well, as far as I'm concerned, he basically just turns up and he wins this fight. But in all seriousness, Rolando Romero offers a lot of counterpunch opportunities. As I mentioned, primarily when he tries to close the distance and apply pressure, he leaves a lot of openings, you know, as again, the main one being, not only is his guard non-existent, but his head is over his front foot, he kind of leans over, so he's open for the uppercut, which Tank Davis throws very well. He's open to a hook around the side also, which is a shot that Tank throws very well. And yeah, for me, Tank in this fight needs to play the counterpuncher. I wouldn't even bother trying to meet Rolando Romero in the centre of a ring. If I'm Tank Davis, I'm probing with that jab, you know, taking that half step back, throwing a couple of feints, basically trying to draw in Rolando Romero, draw the lead, and from there, counter. One thing about Tank Davis, he does have very quick reaction times, and he can find those counters if you make silly mistakes, and that's exactly what Rolando Romero does. He makes silly mistakes, so, I mean, Tank Davis doesn't have to set any elaborate traps in this fight, just the half step back, the pouring jab, throwing a couple of feints, drawing the lead of Rolando Romero, and then countering from there. Also, Rolando being the bigger man, and the man who's going to apply pressure, maybe look for a few body shots. The uppercut to the body is a shot that is there for Tank Davis. Try to get those hooks off to the body. If Rolando Romero is taking that power, then Tank would be wise to work that body. That's one thing he wasn't doing against Isaac Cruz. And Isaac Cruz presented a much different style. Isaac Cruz is a smaller fighter than Tank Davis, and Tank had a hard time catching him clean. So he should have gone to the body in that fight, but he never did. In this fight, I would say Tank would be wise to go to the body. Not only does it slow down that pressure that Rolando Romero could apply, but also if Rolando takes that power early on, chopping him down to the body is his next best option. The only thing for Tank Davis in this fight for me is don't be too keen or too eager to make a statement. We know his last performance against Isaac Cruz wasn't too great, and maybe that will encourage him to look for a spectacular knockout win here. I wouldn't really bother with that, to be honest, because ultimately this fight, I don't think Tank Davis has to chase anything. Rolando Romero will give Tank Davis all of the opportunities in the world to land devastating counters, and ultimately that's all Tank Davis needs in this fight, as far as I'm concerned. Unless Rolando Romero has some granite chin that I'm not aware of, he's going to really struggle in this fight. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty pointless even making a prediction video for this fight, because at the end of the day, the bookies' odds are the bookies' odds, and Tank Davis is a huge favourite, and I agree with those odds, to be honest. Again, the only test for Tank Davis potentially in this fight is the physicality of Rolando Romero, but usually that doesn't win fights. Skills, speed, power, etc. does. And that's what Tank Davis has over Rolando Romero. So, with that being said, I pick Tank Davis to win this fight by a mid-round stoppage. I would say rounds 5 to 7, but potentially earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight gets ended in a couple of rounds. It's one of those sort of fights, but I will say in the mid-rounds, Tank Davis knocks out Rolando Romero and he moves on. And hopefully after this fight, Tank Davis is involved in some mega fights against his fellow lightweights, whether that's the Kambosos Haney winner, Lomachenko, etc. Maybe Shakur Stevenson moves up. There are some great fights out there for Tank Davis, and hopefully after this fight, he takes one of those fights. That's my hopes, really. But yeah, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy, Del Boy. Peace.